All right, and welcome to the August Nutrition Coordinators meeting. We'll go ahead and get started. If you have received our agenda, you'll notice the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just do a quick round robin from all area agencies on aging and just let us know kind of what's going on, how your summer went, where you're at, if there's any challenges you're facing. We'll do a quick round robin on that, and then we'll have a couple topics that we'll talk about under number 2. And then I wanted to show you guys a couple of things that are sent through our listserv, and some updates on that. And I'll follow up by sending you to some documents as well. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first of all, let's just start with kind of introductions, and we'll go around and just give us a kind of a quick synopsis of what's been going on in your neck of the woods. So let's start with Cheryl. I think you're the first one I think was on here. Cheryl. And Sam and Cheryl at Aon, if you want to go ahead and give us an update.
Go ahead, Sam. I guess I don't really have much more of an update from last month. Staffing is still something that we're really struggling with, but I think meals are going well overall. Mostly just staffing right now is something that we're really, really struggling with.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's been one of the things that's been felt quite a lot of places.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Sam at Aon? All right. Let's move on to Angie, West Central. I think you were on here. You were one of the first ones that was on here.
Hi, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. We're struggling here too. Some of the centers are struggling with keeping staff, so I can relate to that. And the expenses of everything that's gone up and making those adjustments. Opening up, the numbers are doing a little bit better maybe, but keeping that staffed and offering more services is maybe the biggest issue. Otherwise, I think we're all going good.
Very good. Awesome. And we're going to come see you very soon with our monitoring. So looking forward to seeing you guys. Yeah, it's coming up. Can't believe it's here already. Any questions for Angie at West Central? All right. How about Susie, Enoa, Omaha?
Well, we are just got done with our annual walkathon fundraiser last Friday. It was a fairly decent day. It was getting kind of hot towards the end, but we do it at a local city park that we work with the city of Omaha, and they allow us to use the pavilion for no cost. So we probably had about 80 to 90 people there. We had 58 raffle baskets that we raffled off, and I think we made about $1,700 on the raffle baskets, and then we had a whole bunch of sponsors. So I think our whole take was about $6,000 that we made. And those funds are used for the senior center managers to buy things that we can't pay for through Older Americans Act, like if they want to buy a popcorn machine, or if they want to buy Christmas gifts for their seniors, if they want to pay for entertainment. Some of our centers have enough money to do that, but a lot don't. So this is a way that they can basically apply for like a grant from us and tell us what they want to use it for, and we can provide them the money. So this was the 6th year that we did it. We had a couple of years with COVID that we didn't, so it came back really well. We had a really good turnout. It was very nice day, and the Benson Park is very beautiful because they have a lagoon that has a walking trail all the way around it, and it's handicap accessible. So if you're in a wheelchair or with a walker, you can still do it. And it's less than a mile around, so it's just a nice little walk. And then people can pay for tickets for the baskets. We had a line dancing demonstration. We had a Tai Chi demonstration. We had the Humane Society bring out a couple dogs that were up for adoption, and one of our staff members adopted a dog that day.
Wow.
We had a place called Whispering Roots, which is a farmer market program, and they brought fresh produce, and they accept the farmer market coupons, so the seniors could bring it back. They gave them 2-for-1 with the farmer market coupons, so we had that in the parking lot. So there was a lot going on. So really, Christina, my assistant, did an awesome job, and all of the staff stepping up and working real hard to get that done. The best thing about it is now over and behind us. It was a lot of work. So that's been kind of what we've been doing for about the last month or so. And we just got a donation of Girl Scout cookies from the Girl Scout Association. So we are in the process of getting those out to the senior centers. We got 49 cases of Girl Scout cookies that we can take out to our different senior centers to use for treats or bingo prizes or whatever they want to use them for. So that's kind of what we've been doing in Omaha.
Wow, that's a lot. You sound busy.
We've been busy.
Wow, good for you. Well, and that's really good to hear about the fundraising events. Just ways to get together, come together, find people in the community in order to raise that funding, whether it's, whether you're doing like a soup or like a soup feed, or a whatever feed you want to do, and then also doing looks like a big event like that.
Well, it was
sounds like
nice because it was outside, so we didn't feel uncomfortable with COVID because people were spread out in the fresh air. We also had a guy that provided massages that was inside a little bit of an air conditioned area, so if anybody got really hot, they could go in there, and that type of thing. So it's been very successful in the past, and so it was nice to have it back.
Wow, that's a great idea. Very cool. That's a great example. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any
Next year
questions?
you'll have to come up for it, Eric.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, definitely. Send
Let
us
you
an
know the day we'll
invite.
put you to work.
That's fine. Send us an invite. We love to, yeah, check
I know you're
things
moving
out.
tables and chairs out in the heat.
Well, I have a pretty good work ethic.
Okay.
I'm out there doing stuff. But any updates is Caitlin on at all? Any
I know
updates?
Caitlin is
Home
at the
delivered?
Meals on Wheels
Okay.
convention,
Oh,
so
cool.
she is not here this time.
Okay. I just thought I'd check with her, see if there's any updates. So
She'll
awesome.
probably have more next month after the conference.
Okay, good. Yeah, she can maybe share with us some intel or some information she gets from the conference. So that'd be great. Awesome. Any other questions for Susie in Omaha? All right. Carmen, Blue Rivers, what's going on?
We are we're growing. Our meal numbers, we served 248 people out of our Beatrice location today. And so we're growing. Some of our other centers people are coming back in, and that is going well. We are still struggling right now finding volunteers to do meal deliveries. We'd really like for that pandemic status to go away. Because we're delivering because people just think it's nice and convenient to be able to just have it delivered at home, and we see them out getting groceries and so forth. So we're coming up with some other ideas to try and get that taken care of. Let's see, Carla, you have anything else? Maybe she's not on. Yep.
Maybe Carla, try again.
I said, no, I don't have anything other than our staff does stay busy. I think we're all fully staffed now at least, so.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's always good to have all positions filled. Well, definitely. And we'll talk a little bit about, we are going to talk today a little bit about to-go meals and some things like that concerning home delivered meals, to-go meals, etc. We'll chat a little bit about that today. So any other questions for Carmen, Blue Rivers?
Yeah, I do. This is Connie from Northeast. So I have to know, what did you serve today in Beatrice to get 248 people?
That's
That's
a good question.
amazing. That's awesome.
actually, before the call, that's why I was a little late getting on the call. We had oven fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and gravy. You know, the real comfort food today.
Yep.
Um, and so we actually ran out of fried chicken, and they had to quickly substitute something else in. But oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. We have gone to a new menu system with Cisco. This was our first month. August was with our new menu system, working with a dietitian, and then we are also working to streamline our costs a little bit. I know we're one of the only AAA's that has kitchens that that I oversee and Carla oversees. And so today, that's what we're doing. We're trying to streamline our costs. They'll have a drop down where they can actually go in and pick the items so that everybody's ordering the same item, and I don't have 8 different centers ordering 8 different kinds of fried chicken. So we're working the kinks out of that, but we've had some pretty good meals lately, and our congregates are all just really, really growing. But if you could see the size of kitchen that these poor people have to work out of in Beatrice, Eric, it's not very big, is it?
No, yeah, it's just
No, and they do a
submarine kitchen.
phenomenal job. And I will
Yeah.
say that out of that kitchen, the meals are served for Wymore and Cortland on that today as well. But we had a lot of meals going out of Beatrice today.
That's awesome. Great. That is really, really good to hear, and it's good to hear that you got Cisco helping you and getting that order down straight there, right there. Because I mean, yeah, that was before. I'm sure that was a lot. It was pretty confusing. Good, awesome. Popular protein item is the chicken always. That's good. Getting that out there. Very good. Awesome, Carmen. Thank you. Any other questions for Blue Rivers? Very good. How about Northeast? Lori?
Hello, Eric. I have Connie
Hey.
with you today.
Yeah, what's up?
We are pretty much the same in our centers right now. I've been going out doing training with the new managers, which has been really interesting. They have learned a lot and taught me a few things, so that's been going good. Tomorrow's my last training, so then I go to evaluations and we'll see how that one goes. But for meal wise, it's pretty steady. Activities they're starting to pick up. More activities are going on in the centers, which is really good for the centers. People are getting out more, and the elderly are really enjoying it. They're ready to play their cards and their bingo again. So we're doing pretty good up here.
Hey, that's awesome. That's really, really good. And if you're seeing an increase in numbers, that's really, really good. So hopefully just keep it going. Sweet. Any questions for Lori, Northeast? All right. Now we'll move on to Jill at Aging Partners. What's going on, Jill?
Hi. Things are going really well here. Not a whole lot has changed since last month. Our Crete Pop-Up Center is still going really well. We've actually hired a second interpreter to help with some of the interpretation at the center during the pop-ups, which is going to be really, really beneficial when it comes to Medicare Part D, because she will be ship trained. So both of the interpreters will be ship trained, which will be really, really nice for that pop-up. Our a lot of our counties, well, a lot of the several of the centers in our counties were cited previously for lack of commercial dishwashers from the health inspector. So we have purchased dishwashers. They are installed. So that'll be really nice to have all of that fixed for their next inspections. And meals are staying pretty steady. Some of the rural areas have really taken off on some of their meals, and they've been working a lot on their fundraisers. bake sales, potato bakes, things like that, and that's been going really well. So just holding steady.
Hey, wonderful. Good to hear. That's really, really good to hear. And congratulations on the dishwashers too. That's
Yeah.
a big. I know those aren't cheap.
No,
Those
they
are
weren't,
expensive.
but we had several of the centers when the health inspector had come out.
Yeah.
It had been several years since they had an inspection,
Mhm.
and when he came out, that was one of the things that they were cited for. So they are all moving forward with their new commercial dishwashers. So that's
Very
good.
good. Very good. And I heard, if some of you have emailed me or communicated with me that it has been a while since someone came and did like an inspection. But they, rest assured they are coming um, to do, inspections. They're getting around to it. They have more staff now, obviously, and it just takes a while, and so they will eventually, come around or do something. Um, but I have put some word out there, like if if someone hasn't come and inspected a place, I can let them know or whatever. So if you're looking for that, I can speak with that department, and Mandy Carney is the one that I usually talk to, and she's pretty good about knowing what's going on with inspections. But yeah, definitely awesome. Thank you, and that's really good to hear. And not to mention the ship training. That's really, really useful. I think that's great. It's the state health insurance assistance program, including that on your sites. That's really, really good for navigating Medicare. Um, so yeah, kudos to you on that.
I have a question for Jill. Where did you actually get your dishwashers from?
Oh, we got them from all over. Some of them we got through. I know one of them got through. One of them we replaced because she needed a new one, and that was through Cashway. Some of them they got from their local hardware store. Lowe's, I know, was contacted. There was some supply issues there. Webstaurant was one. Restaurants like the restaurant supply stores, like those websites. Those were probably a better source for supplies.
Thank you.
Very cool. Good to know. All right. Thank you, Jill, very much. Let's move on to South Central. Do I see Sue? I don't see Sue's name.
She's here.
I'm
Okay.
here.
Oh, hey. Oh, there you are. You're under Rod's name. Okay.
Oh, that's good. So
Oh, what's going
business
on?
as usual at South Central. Gonna plan to be getting out to the senior centers and start to do assessments again. As far as our nutrition centers go, the attendance is increasing inside. And some of the centers have had a barbecue or trying to do, maybe an ice cream social type thing, just summer type events. Um, It's been hard to get some of them to come back because you get comfortable, but I think, when they have scheduled different type of social events, they have been more apt to want to come into the centers. I do have a cook's training that I have set up for September 20th, and I'm gonna have one of our health inspectors do a presentation in the afternoon, and you're always invited too, Eric, if you would like to come. Actually, I spoke with both health inspectors today, and one of them for over an hour. We just had quite a good conversation about a lot of different issues and different facts. So that was good. But centers are, everything's going well. Just encouraging them to make sure they spend those farmers market vouchers because time is getting closer. But other than that, no news is good news. I guess things are going well.
Hey, that's great. That is good to hear. And that's cool that you're having training as well. And yeah, no news is good news sometimes, and especially headed into the fall. That's excellent. So awesome. Well, very good. Any questions for Sue, South Central? All right, thank you, Sue. Let's move on to Midland. Do I see somebody here from Midland? I don't see anybody here from Midland. Rachel is not on. I wasn't sure if they were attending or not. I hadn't seen anything from them, but that's okay. We have this recorded and they can access it online. So with that, thank you everyone for just your round robins. Does anybody have any questions for anybody else at this time? Okay, if not, we'll just move on to the rest of our items and we'll finish out. So what I had done is I sent everyone the agenda on there, and I wanted to mention just a few things. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen and put the agenda on there so you can look at it. I know it's in front of you, but then I can point to stuff. After that, I do want to look at a couple things that have come from the listserv in regards to service prioritization and a couple documents that I was able to obtain from other states that I can give you that's kind of handy. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Okay. So can everyone see that?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can see it.
see it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in taking a look at our agenda here, one of the questions that was brought up, and when I send out the SurveyMonkey invites or surveys on when we're going to do our calls, I sometimes I get feedback on different topics to cover, and so I wanted to go over some of these things with you. And one of those questions was nutrition education frequency. And one of the questions was essentially, and feel free to, if you have questions at all, chime in at any time. But the question was talking about nutrition education frequency and also what where does it need to be utilized? And so I went ahead and just put some of our language on this agenda. And the service narrative we have for nutrition education is as such, where it talks about this is what it is, this is where it should come from, and this is the setting. As far as the frequency, according to Chapter 4, when we came out with our regulations, we basically didn't have necessarily a specific number, but we just said, at the very least, if you're going to do it, then just do it, at least one time a year. If you're going to utilize the funds for providing nutrition education, then provide it, essentially. We didn't have like the two, minimum of twice a year or whatever, but basically this is just saying if it's delivered to both congregate and home delivered meal sites, do it one time a year, do it, or don't do it at all. For the Older Americans Act, it's pretty vague. Talks a little bit about providing nutrition education and other services as appropriate based on the needs of the meal participant, based on needs. So we are also looking at the needs on another level here by sending out those surveys. And Amy had mentioned those surveys that we had sent out to the different senior centers because we want to assess a couple different things. And one of those things is nutrition education. I had mentioned before that I am actually working with the University of Nebraska Lincoln Extension Education Program and trying to find a way to potentially come up with an online extension education page for older adults, okay, that would provide more specific senior adult nutrition education. Okay, so what we're trying to do is gauge essentially what's needed in the community, what's needed at the senior center level, and then utilize that information and analyze it so that we can figure out what potentially UNL, University of Nebraska Lincoln Extension Program, could establish for a page. Okay, so I know it sounds a little like a bit much, but essentially we're trying to collect that data back to see what the need is. Okay, so Older Americans Act just says, you know, provide nutrition education based on the needs of the meal participants. We say if you're going to provide it, then provide it. We encourage obviously home delivered meal and congregate. Our recommendation literally is basically the kind of the summary is if you're going to provide nutrition education, prioritize it to your audience's needs. Okay, and that's what we're trying to find out with our surveys. Utilize the professional and, you know, reliable accredited sources, and, you know, provide education to clients in more than one setting, especially individuals who could benefit from it. If it's like a home delivered meal and you wanted to give them information on staying hydrated in the summer, that's a big one. You know, or what are some foods that they can consume that will help them stay hydrated besides just water? Okay, because you get water from food too. So, you know, things like that that are helpful, that are applicable based on the needs of the individuals that you're serving. So, so I wanted to address that real quick and also mention our survey that we're doing and some of the information that's coming out of that and what we're going to do with that. But that's pretty much it in summary for that topic. Does anybody have, or what questions do you have for me?
So Eric, this is Lori. So when I do my nutritional facts for the month, I can go on to the Nebraska Extension and use that information then, right?
Well, currently right now, yes, you can, but what we're trying to do, the extension website has all sorts of information, but let me take a step back real quick and just explain that a lot of their information, a lot of it is for it's general nutrition information, or a lot of it is for um, it's some of it's for school age nutrition. There's some pediatric, but there's also like some information that, well, I don't know. I guess in summary, there's not a lot of older adult nutrition education, and what we're trying to do is find a way to maybe include a new page or a new area that they would, you know, be able to provide older adult nutrition education. And so, but yeah, you can definitely go on the extension website. Those are all dietitians that come up with that information. You know, they've had that site up for years and they've been providing some pretty good stuff, but we want them to maybe specifically have a page that's more attuned to our audience.
And the myplate.gov does have some information that's specifically for older adults. If you're interested, if you need more references, and that's a really good website.
For sure. That's exactly right, Susie. Good plug. That's a great one too to use. So whether you're using that, yeah, that's a really good one. I definitely would recommend that one. There's the older adult My Plate, or the older adult, yeah, My Plate, and there's just some good information on there. But I guess what we want to do, what we want to have done in the future, is to have a more specific Nebraska website that would give, you know, our people in our state sort of a more tailored or specific nutrition education based off of needs. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Eric, this is Carmen, and we're going to actually have a, and I don't know if I can use that for this or not, but we will have the home health department and I think a dietitian coming from Syracuse Health next week to our Syracuse site. And they're going to be talking about diabetes, eating, all of that wonderful stuff. But my problem I'm going to have is getting that information out to my home delivery people. Would you suggest then I go ahead to say myplate.gov and look for something on the diabetic scene to kind of go along with that to send out to home delivered, or what's your thoughts on that?
That's a good question, Carmen. That's a good start. That is a really good start because that display or that information is great for anybody, especially diabetics too. It's pretty general. Now it's not super specific concerning, uh, maybe their needs specifically on planning a diabetic diet, but it is a good start. And there are some places, there's some more information specifically on diabetes and things like that. That I can send you if you want, or you can actually even ask if you're having a dietitian come and speak if they have materials. Uh, if you wanted to talk one-on-one with them, that would be good as well. But I guess if you're thinking about the specific, um, um, handout or something to give to them, that would be a good start. Um, there's some really good information with the American Diabetes Association too that you can find online. Even if it's something just a really easy message, um, that's that's what you would want to find and provide to them. And if it's something that you wanted to give to them with as a piece of paper, even if it's in black and white, you're just at least giving them something, um, in their home that they can utilize or read. That's a good start, at least.
And you might want to check with the person that's doing the presentation to see if she could provide maybe a synopsis handout that you could do.
That's what I was thinking. I could
That's a good
possibly
idea
Really
too.
go
reach out to
heads up
her.
ahead of
Okay.
time because she probably is getting her information from someplace, so she probably might have a handout for your folks.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a good point, Susie, because if she could provide even more handouts, that'd be good because they can be sometimes depending on what they look like, you know, they may just be a summary of information on there that's really easy. You want to be concise, you want to have a good reading level that they can understand, not be too complicated or not have 2 pages that are stapled together. If it's one page that's easy reading, that's definitely the best way to deliver it. So good point, Susie. Any other questions on this? Okay. Let's move on to the second topic here, and we'll talk a little bit about to-go meals. Okay. Um, Now, this is something that we wanted to talk a little bit about because I know that, especially Carmen, when you were talking about home delivered meals and whatnot, you're seeing an increase in home delivered meals and also congregate meals in some areas, depending on what they're serving. But we also want to talk a little bit about to-go meal options and what that's going to look like in the future. Okay, so it's been a long time coming with this to-go meals, and after looking at the listserv and seeing what states are wanting to participate in to-go meals and which ones that are not going to, it's kind of shocking. But there's a lot of states that are going to participate in to-go meals, which is really, really good. And they're ones that serve a lot more people. And I think that that's going to be something where they've kind of realized that we're living in a little bit different time and the to-go meals can definitely be utilized. Now, the to-go meals are a registered service, okay? And it is C2 as in home delivered meal money that is utilized to pay for to-go meals, okay? That's the back end, all right? In the front end, basically it's looking like somebody's coming to pick up a meal and take it away. Okay, they're coming to the congregate site. It looks more like a congregate. However, they're eating it away from the center. Okay, and that's why they consider it to be a C2 meal, consumed away from the center. Okay, there was some confusion, and I really don't want to talk too much about it because it can be kind of confusing, but there was some guidance from ACL talking about eating meals away from the center, and whether it's in a group setting away from the center and counting it as a congregate meal. It's that guidance was very confusing, and oftentimes I think it would be very, very hard to whittle that down and determine whether they were eating with a group or not. But anyways, for right now, what we are looking at is in the future having to-go meals as a registered service and utilizing C2 funding. You would complete an intake just like you would with a congregate. Okay. Now, the difference being, though, that with the to-go meals, okay, we would want to include the ADLs and IADLs used for C2 funding, okay? And I want to also just kind of emphasize that this is because when we think about congregate meals, with our taxonomy, obviously we want you to collect the NSI score, get their information. However, for home delivered meals, we're looking for a little bit more. Now, some of you have a separate home delivered meal assessment that you attach to your intake, okay? And that is on you. That is your agency's business practice to assess your home delivered meal clients, okay? Okay. That's not something that we regulate. That's just something that we look at. We say, okay, this is what you provide in addition to your intake for home delivered meals. Okay. So you have your congregate meal intake, your home delivered meal intake with your home delivered meal assessment. And then you have also a to-go meal intake, essentially. Okay. That would be the same as a congregate meal, but we would encourage and want you to include ADLs and IADLs. Why? Because you're utilizing C2 funding, okay? To-go and home delivered meal intake requires ADL and IADL to be collected, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because if it doesn't, let me know. So basically, one of the things that could help relieve some of the home delivered meal numbers could be the option of encouraging individuals to do to-go meals. Because essentially it also encourages them to get to the center. There is some sort of socialization happening because you are talking with other people. Maybe you're standing in line, maybe you're talking to the center manager, you're talking to somebody else. There is a chance for that. And so they also get the opportunity to receive a nutritious meal. Okay. The meal is eaten away from the center, so it's counted as C2 funding, in which case we want to fulfill the requirements that we would with home delivered meals. Okay. Now, when you're doing like the to-go meal intake, you wouldn't include the home delivered meal assessment, obviously, because you're not delivering it to their home. You're having them come in. Rather, you're just collecting the IADLs and the ADLs. Okay. So one thing to think about would be, and I'm putting this out there now because I know we'll talk more about this in December, is developing a policy and procedure for when to complete a home delivered meal intake for a client who is requesting to-go meals. And why we say that, and Ben, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, so feel free to chime in whenever. But if someone is coming to get their meals and they're not steady on their feet, or they're having an issue getting there, just having a maybe a policy or a knowing that, hey, you know what, if you are coming to get your meals and you're struggling to get here and you don't want to be at the congregate center, or you can't access it, or whatever the deal is, having a procedure for transferring people to a home delivered meal. Okay. We are going to follow up on the team. We'll follow up with the team here on some of these demographic requirements, essentially. But I think moving forward, what we wanted to establish, though, is that a to-go meal, essentially, it's a registered service, and that basically it's using C2 funding, and we would want you to include ADLs and IADLs, and that would help maybe even really give some relief to some of the home delivered meals that are happening, to say, hey, you know what, we encourage you to come to the center. We're doing activities. You can do like a grab and go meal, to go meal. There's also some maybe information we're handing out today that you could come get, and that could even help with some of the high home delivered meal numbers, especially if you're having issues with volunteers. Okay. What questions do you have?
Eric, this is Jill. What are the eligibility requirements is it just 60 and above? I know it's considered, since it's considered a C2, the Chapter 4 regs is, a little bit more specific on, obviously those eligibilities. So what would be, is it just 60 and above?
Correct. And let me be clear here too, that in order to receive the very bare minimum, in order to receive for ACL and for us, the bare minimum is just being 60. And then after that is where we have prioritization. We also have then different requirements that and logistics that come in and sometimes create kind of a gray area. If you're 60 plus, to go meal is fine. If it's a congregate meal, 60 plus. And then of course, obviously, if you have your spouse and etc., all that other stuff. But yeah, those are the requirements for 60
So
plus. Now,
sorry, so would a spouse, like if a spouse came in, I mean, will that be, I guess, will that be updated in the Chapter 4 regs on eligibility?
yeah, exactly. And what we're going to have to work on eventually will be essentially working on the definition of a take-home meal. There is a couple things. This is all kind of a result of COVID, obviously, and the morphing of to-go meals from a necessity to something that we want to make like more of a lifestyle, essentially. But yeah, these are some of the things that we're going to have to address coming up. But I'm trying to give you guys a preview on maybe things to come and how we're going to create this as a new service and what to expect. Okay. Yeah, of course, you're welcome, Jill. And I know that the demand was so high on this. And a lot of states were like, this is just the best way to keep these programs alive and keep things moving forward. And so I know that we're just going to have to work some kinks out with this. But the best thing we can do is just sort of, do one thing at a time. And I know that having this be a registered service will be the first step. And then trying to address some of these things with the regulations and things like that afterwards will come, will follow. Okay. So, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there today. Okay.
Eric, this is Connie. Thank you. As you know, I've been one of the people that have been really wanting this to be a registered service. So, and I appreciate your comment saying that this is it's a lifestyle as baby boomers are getting older. This is how we're wanting our service. So a lot more flexibility being allowed as far as the meal program. So it's funny because today I ran across a file folder that when we were recognizing that to-go meals were not an eligible meal And the state at the time was getting many emails from senior centers, and then they were sending them to our congressmen and senators. Yeah, you're all shaking your head because some of you remember that. Because they didn't understand that it was not considered an eligible service at the time. So this is fantastic. So thank
Good.
you.
You're welcome, Connie. Well, thank you for the kind words, and you know what, you guys did really a good job with, getting together and making that demand known. It's really important to do that. Um, these days, it's really important to come together and advocate for your people and advocate for yourself. And I think that that's just really, really important. So, yeah, no, for sure. I'm trying to think else to say about that. I know that it was in such high demand, and I'm glad that we're able to finally move forward on it. And if you were at the town halls, if you attended those with Amy, she went through these, and then she sent out, basically what these would kind of look like. And we're going to talk about these more in December when we get together. And I look forward to that and kind of answering your questions and seeing all of you too. That will be really good.
So I know when COVID hit and we were talking then about the different services that we could provide, and when you guys mentioned, oh, we can do to-go meals, I remember thinking with just really concerned that when they were going to take that away, when COVID was going to get better, as we still deal with COVID, that if when they took that away, it was going to be brutal for the rest of us. And so I'm so grateful right now that to-go meals are continuing. So much better for all of us.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of one of those things. I think they realized they kind of had to have the numbers show that, like, look, if you're going to have some of these programs survive, and especially with, people's living situations change and whatnot, you're going to have to change too. And if you don't change, sometimes you just, it's either change or die. And so we have to adapt, just like you would, just like anything adapts. And so I think that that's one of the steps that we are taking forward. And there'll be some kinks to work out. And there may be some things that, you ask and I may not know at the time, but just give me a minute. I will try to find the answer for you. Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank
I
you,
really,
Eric.
you're welcome. No, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any other questions on to-go meals? Okay. We have about 10 minutes left. I do want to show you guys a couple things. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. Okay. So I'm going to send these out. These are fun little handouts that we got through the listserv from some of them were in conjunction with ACL, but some of the other states were using them. They're utilizing ACL to assist them with coming up with this information, but I will send you these. Our listserv is really good because it's through the Nutrition Resource Center in Iowa, and Iowa received the grant. Their SUA received the big grant to do this Nutrition Resource Center where they receive information and listserv emails and conversations from all over the country, from all the different SUAs. And so I tried to go through there and look week by week to make sure that there is information that may be pertinent to you. If there's questions that's asked, I'm going to try to relay them to you. This summer's been kind of quiet. There really hasn't been too many questions asked. But I did look through some stuff and I found some documents that I'll send to you that was kind of handy. So this talks about senior nutrition program prioritization. And one of the things that we talk about on some of those calls is how are states prioritizing things and how are they looking at making sure that they're serving individuals who need it most. And so I have a list here that I can show you on why to prioritize, which system. Here's some screening tips, etc. These are the things like here's ADLs and IADLs. those are the one of the things that we would want, obviously, to include home delivered meals and anything that's related to Title C2. Also, the NSI score, the malnutrition, things like that, that's also incorporated in here too. Food security, etc. So this is just a fun little guide. It's something that may help you out. And then there's some next steps. So I like stuff that's one page because it's simple. And if you ever wanted to include something in your policies or procedures, you can utilize that. They also have a guide here. I know I just discovered this about a couple years old now this month, but going through some of this stuff, they drag this out and they provide it. So I'm like, this is kind of neat. And they have a table of contents where you can look through stuff. Some of it's like senior nutrition program eligibility criteria. You can look at that. Just gives you another perspective, some language that maybe if you wanted to use in your own policy, you can utilize it. It's got good citations here from the OAA. I know the OAA is very dry and stuff like that, but if you ever want to look at something like this that helps you kind of summarize stuff, that may be helpful, because sometimes when you're reading the OAA, it can be kind of sometimes it's not really black and white. Sometimes it's more gray, and it can be kind of squishy. So it's good to have sometimes when states are able to work with ACL or work within themselves to create documents that make things a little bit more clear. So I will email these out on the list, and you can take a look at this. But I thought that was kind of neat that they're able to come up with some easy guides. So I will share that. But that's really what's been new with the listserv there. If there's anything else that's been groundbreaking, I will let you know. There hasn't been really anything else on the listserv surrounding to-go meals. Basically, what we talked about today was the latest. And so with that, I want to talk about one more thing. Amy, who is in DC right now, told us about this fun website called True Alta. And I went here today to visit this website, and they actually provide, you can utilize Title 3D funds for this service, which is kind of neat. If you go to About, they talk about, it's basically like this education program for education on how to prevent falls in the house, safely transfer from bed to a chair, manage difficult behavior when a loved one has experienced reduced cognition, etc. They're online tools that you can use for caregivers, essentially, and you can utilize Title 3D funding for this. It's ACL approved, and she learned about this at the meeting she's in Washington, D.C. right now. So I thought that was really cool that she shared that with us today. So again, it's truealta.com right here. So all right. Well, that's all I have for you today. Any questions on any of the materials we went over, or any questions for each other?
I have a question that's off topic. I'm sorry, I was late hopping in.
Oh, hey, Rachel, how's it going? you can, we have like 5 minutes if you want to just give a little update or anything.
We've been going through each of the senior centers, and just, you guys kind of did that toured agency, and so now we're kind of doing some toured senior centers and noticing things that maybe are off kilter, or things like that. And so that has brought up a couple questions that it might be easier just to ask the group than to try and dig and spend my time that way. In a senior center that is owned by a community or a committee, that we pretty much just utilize the space for the meal programs and the things during the senior center hours. Some of those sites have like weekend meals or monthly dinners, things like that, that are separate from the OAA program. My question is, in a refrigerator, and this is very basic. But so they store their things in the refrigerator, but a lot of times they aren't labeled or dated or things like that, which is not okay. So can you designate a large refrigerator, like half of it, this is not our problem, and then half of it, this is our problem? Or how do you make that okay for when the health guy comes and says, hey, what's all this stuff here? You're laughing.
Yeah, because I could just totally see it in my mind.
You know, like they have their own freezer that is
Uh-huh.
only theirs. So
Yep.
they hold their homemade ice cream that they sell or things like that.
Yeah.
But the refrigerator is the bigger issue. You know, they have just all this random stuff, whipped cream, and it's not expired yet or things like that, but there's
Yeah.
no rhyme or reason.
Well, I'll just say, and then everybody else can just chime in whenever. Um, for our programs and for our protection, the Older Americans Act and ACL and us, the State Youth on Aging, as long as it's, I mean, it needs to be in an area and a facility that is, following the rules, but also, especially the food that's being served to the seniors, we want to protect that the most. Now, as far as if it's an outside senior center you're contracting with, essentially that would definitely be on them. And that honestly, it could create a problem if it's if it's being stored, or being tampered with by individuals who are maybe not labeling anything incorrectly. But it definitely is on the actual senior center itself, if it's an outside or a contract agency.
I mean, it's not a contract site.
Oh,
It
okay.
is. So it's our site. We manage it from 9 to 2, but they utilize the building. Like I said, they have weekend dinners or ice cream
Right.
sales and things like that
Okay. So and you manage it essentially.
during the day, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
But it's
Well,
their building. So like we live in their building,
oh, okay,
I
okay,
guess is the
okay.
way to
So,
put it.
right. And unfortunately, that's the problem is they're the owners. If they are the owners of the building, you're essentially managing it for your time that you're there, but they own the building, right? Well, that's something that, I mean, I would encourage just the communication with them and sit down with them and talk about that, because, um, you know, ultimately, if an inspector comes in, it's on the owner of the building essentially.
Okay.
Um, I mean, if their food's separate, maybe it's locked up or maybe it's separate, that's one thing. Um, but I would, and that does create it. That's hard. That's kind of a dichotomy there.
Erin,
Um,
this is Carmen. I'm probably we're probably our area is probably the one that has the most centers like that that we can actually utilize. We have buildings. The one I'm thinking of right now is Sterling. Um, we actually have there's actually 2 refrigerators in there. Uh, one just strictly for uh, Blue Rivers, and then one that the uh, community building or whatever you want to call it owns. And it's just an understanding that people know that that's Blue Rivers. You don't touch anything in there. Then that way we have kind of access just to that. If the inspector comes, we can say, hey, we don't have anything to do with that refrigerator. That's the community centers, but this one over here is ours. And then we only have one to take care of. But I don't know how big your center is either, to be able to do that. But I'm thinking the easiest way to possibly get around that would be to find a small refrigerator that you could put in there just to
Keep it separate.
just to keep them separate. I think that's probably the easiest way. And we do have that in a couple of our different locations, that, because we have to do that. But we do
Right.
have in quite a few different locations that there's just a separate refrigerator for um, the community buildings items.
Okay.
Yeah, Carmen, that's a great suggestion, and that's probably spot on. That's probably perfect, exactly what you need. And I think Rachel, I mean, the difficulty that you're talking about is if it's in the same walk-in. I mean, that is really hard. I suppose
Right. Well,
if
it's
that's
just one of those big commercial refrigerators,
mhm.
and we probably only utilize, I'd say, half of it.
Can they
So
and
it's like,
sometimes they can lock some of them. I know with like certain places like sometimes churches or other places that share they do multiple different food services, they'll lock their side.
right.
And you may consider that and even labeling it. So that way if they come in, that's one thing that they would, I don't know. If they're coming in during your service, you could open up your side that says, "Hey, this is my side," and obviously everything is not like that side. So
Well, and for the most part, this is a site where we contract the meal in. So we're not cooking the food. But if there is a
okay,
leftover that we're labeling, for to offer the next day
cool.
so it doesn't go to waste, or things like that, leftover fruit or leftover whatever, you put in the label, this is what it is, this is when it was opened. But their stuff is just everywhere.
Yeah, I would just maybe try to have a conversation with them to try to get that solved. I mean, especially if you're
Okay.
going to be there. That's just, yeah, something you would talk to them about.
Okay.
But no, that's a good question. And thank you, Carmen, very much for chiming in. That's a good
Yes.
solution too. Very good. All right.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. Any other comments for Rachel or any other general comments? All right. All righty then. Well, monitoring season is upon us, so I'll see all of you one of these upcoming months, and let's get ready for fall. We'll see you in September.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Eric.
Eric.